the new year off right. Start 2024 with Luxel as your search engine. Among other benefits, you get uncensored results, extra privacy, and more control. That's Luxel, LUXXLE.com. I know you're used to me telling you about We the People of Cape Girardeau County. Well, as I mentioned on our last episode, We the People is now Guardians of Liberty in Southeast Missouri, still meeting at Delmonico's at 5 o'clock p.m. in Jackson, Missouri. Same important work, same task, new name. Guardians of Liberty. And on January 16th, Pastor Mark Carbaugh of Rock of Cape Church will be there. The topic, a preview of 2024. I'll be back at the end to tell you about January 23rd. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show. And it is going to be a good show. Now, I say that not even knowing exactly how this show is going to unfold. And let me explain why. You'll recall the last episode was me dishing it with 3 Christian single women. And this week, I get to be on the other side of the camera. In other words, we're going to continue this topic in a way, but I'm not going to be moderating it. I am actually going to be a part of the panel. My good friend, you've seen her on the show before, Kiya Cordeau, is going to lead. Now, she's married. Kiya is in ministry with her husband. They're pastors. She is a teacher. She is an author, and she is one of my very, very best friends. We go way back. And so that's just a little bit of who Kiya is, but she is the moderator, okay? And she is going to lead this conversation I get to be a part of on the Adrienne Ross Show, continuing the topic of being a single Christian woman. I don't know where she's going to take it, but I'm looking forward to it. So after a couple messages, Kiya will take over. So here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight, to the Adrienne Ross Show. Why don't we get this conversation started by introducing yourselves?
Hi, my name is Amanda, and I am 41, and I work in higher education administration.
Hi, my name is Deshae Cecil, and I am 36, and I work in higher education as well.
Hello, I'm Lakeisha Blissett, and I am 41, and I am a house cleaner.
And hello, I am Adrienne Ross, and at this age, I'm still trying to figure out what I do and who I am, but they tell me I'm an editor, and I'll keep it short. I'm also obviously the host of the Adrienne Ross Show.
Excellent. Well, we're so glad to have all of you here, especially you, Adrienne, since you're hosting the show, or since it's your show.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so let's jump into this conversation really quickly here. I want to talk about a few statistics that I looked up that I think are really important to the conversation. First of all, there are 127 million singles right now in the United States, which I thought, okay, that's a decent number. What that means, break that down a little bit. What that means is 4 out of 10 adults are single. Now, how many of you find that interesting? Okay, they're a lot out there. So let's keep working with those numbers. 4 out of 5 of those adults consider themselves to be Christian, because I know the conversation that you had last time had to do with, okay, we are looking for Christian single people, and they are nowhere to be found, or at least they're not in close proximity. Is that a Missouri thing?
Is it a Missouri thing?
Is it a Missouri thing? Are they not in Missouri?
I'm new to Missouri, so I'm going to defer to the people who are from this area. Is it a Missouri thing?
I don't know if it's a Missouri thing. To me, it's more the definition of what they think is a Christian. I think that's the difference.
Okay. So I'm going to ask everybody those questions, and I was kind of being a little facetious, but I wanted to just, again, let's refer back to the statistics. The next piece of that is 23% of that number are churchgoers. So not only do they consider themselves Christians, but they are also churchgoers. So let's piggyback off of what you just said, Amanda. The definition of being a Christian. Do you feel like that is a drawback? So, or is that the greater question? You know, what kind of, you know, how committed is this person to Christ when you're looking at, you know, a possibility or a potential mate?
For me, it definitely is. So, of course, with the location of Missouri, you know, we're in what we're considered the Bible Belt, and a majority, I mean, not all, but a majority of people, they do have an understanding of church, and maybe they're going, you know, they're attending a church service on a Sunday morning because it's what they've always done. Maybe their family has always taken them to church, and maybe it's more of a social thing. But then once you get out, you know, of that setting, then you find that maybe that depth of scripture, that holiness component sometimes seems to be lacking.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So Deshay, you're shaking your head. Thank you, Amanda. Deshay, you're shaking your head. Can you expound on your perspective based on what Amanda said?
Finding people with a depth and kind of like those who study out their word, who's living out the purity culture, who's living out the culture, but like purity and actually having that actual strong relationship with the Lord. Meaning they're like leading disciples, they're being mentored by other people, they are actually living out the gospel. They're not just saying having a Christian tattoo on their shoulder. Like there's something they're actually living out. There's a huge difference in finding. That's what I've been finding. So
Interesting. Lakeisha, do you want to add to that, or do you have something to add to that, or should we go on? Because I have a kind of a follow-up question that I think is interesting.
No, I don't, because mine would be along the same lines of what they said.
Okay, so then maybe you can answer this question first. Do you think then that is a component of more for women as opposed to men, or vice versa, that the men are the ones who are just not, I don't know about them. Do you feel like they feel the same way?
Good question.
That is a good question.
We gotta think about that, right? Because I'm curious.
I don't
Adrienne,
know.
what about you? Do you think men? Oh, go ahead, Lakeisha.
No, I was gonna say I might have to simmer on that one a little bit. Adrienne can go. Go ahead. I'm not sure.
So you're asking, do I think that men are having that same conversation or those same thoughts? Like there just aren't women who fit my description of being a Christian?
Right.
Mm.
Or is it is it only the other way around?
I don't know. I think that's why it's so important to talk to the men as well, right? To see what their mindset is.
Mhm.
But in general, I think from my upbringing anyway, which is my frame of reference, it's usually the women who are, you know, saying, where are the Christian men who are, as Amanda would say, not a Christian boy, but a godly man. So it's usually the women who are saying that. I hope that there are guys out there who really are saying, you know what, I want a woman who's on fire for God. There's got to be, right?
I would think so. In light of that, and I guess my background is education as well, and so I teach seniors, and I constantly in our curriculum. I mean, we're talking about morals, we're talking about the 7 deadly sins. I mean, we're doing all of, like, medieval British literature, so that's Shakespeare and you know, the whole idea of what true love is. We've read the Canterbury Tales, and what's a true Christian, really, what's a high ethical moral standard? What does that mean? And so I always kind of pit the girls against the boys because I want them to think about it. And the questions that I ask them are, boys are girls hard to understand, and they all say overwhelmingly, oh, absolutely. And then the girls are like, well, what about the boys? They're like, well, they're just, they just don't get it. They don't listen. They don't get it. So, the girls always say that we're easy to understand. Now, as adults, what do y'all think about that? Are we difficult to understand as women? Are our expectations unreasonable?
I definitely don't think our expectations are unreasonable. And I mean, I can only speak, for myself because I know my expectations. And I've joked on here, before that a lot of people will say, well, Amanda, you're too picky. I believe that I need to be picky because I am submitting my life to this man to lead me in the way that Christ led the church. So to do that appropriately, I have to make sure that he is also, ready to die for me the way that Christ died for the church. And so I think that we have to be picky. Not only should we as women be picky, but so should the men as well. I from my experience, it seems like that, and I do not speak for all, all men. I do not lump all men in one thing, but I can tell you from my experience, it seems like the more expectations that you have of a man, the more they withdraw. It's almost as if they don't want someone to push them. They literally just say, okay, I meet this low bar. Isn't that acceptable? And for me, that's not acceptable.
Not acceptable. Amanda, I love what you said in the last podcast about, look, I want to be running to the throne as quick as I can. And if I look over and see him there and he's running it, he can keep up, I'm going to introduce myself. I love that. I love that. And I think that will stick with me because, that's a powerful statement. I'm going to continue doing what I know to do. And, if God interrupts my doing or my service, then, I'm all ears and I'm open to do that. So I appreciate that. Let's see. So Lakeisha, would you say that, I hear what Amanda's saying in terms of expectations, like we should have high expectations. And of course, I would hope that men should have the same kind of high expectations for themselves. Obviously, we have no control over that. But would you say that, how would you answer the question of the expectations that men have on, let me rephrase that. How would you respond to men who say, I just don't know, I don't understand, or I'm not sure I understand their expectations?
That's when I think it's time like to talk it out. And I think it's so important with when you're wanting to date someone to get all of that out. Like, this is what I expect. And you might not fully be there yet, but at least you can start to understand. And if that person's willing to walk that out with you to try to understand that person's expectations, then I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
no, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. Do you ever get to that? Do you get to that point? Do you see that happens in the church? Anybody want to answer that? That you get to the point where you have the conversation? Or is it just like their Christian singles don't meet? That's like the anti dating app, Christian singles don't meet. Is that, what's the reality for anyone?
I don't think they're meeting. I mean, I know that Adrienne asked us on our last podcast if we were dating, and the answer is no. So it's almost as if we're not crossing paths.
Well,
Why is that, Adrienne?
Huh?
Why is that?
I don't see anybody. So I struggle with the question, are your expectations too high? Because I feel like that has to be tested. Now, I do have some standards that I don't want to compromise, and because I found it interesting that your stats included who were Christians and who go to church. So, but that's a reality. I'm thinking they should kind of be the same. I mean, that's just how I see it. Now, so I don't know. I feel like I have these expectations that some might consider high, but I also think it has to be tested. Am I meeting people and then I'm going, okay, you don't qualify, you don't qualify, you don't qualify. Until I'm doing that, I'm not being picky. You understand what I'm saying?
Point. That's a great point.
Yeah, but I do have certain standards that I would have. I would have, but I haven't encountered that in a while, so I don't know.
Okay, so do you have, for anyone, do you have do you expect the person that you meet to have certain standards, or maybe what might those standards be? What should they be looking for in you? That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
That just came right.
I'm trying to be quiet so other people can jump in. I don't want to,
Shay, what do you think? If you can think of, the $1 million man, we'll just use air quotes on that, the $1 million man, what would you say, what would you want him to say? My expectations of Duche would be filling
Well,
up.
I would expect for him to want a woman of God, a prayer warrior, somebody who's willing to like be in the word, go deep, somebody who's understanding, somebody who's willing to like I would say compromise or kind of and have a conversation about like different aspects, somebody who's in their word, somebody who's serving and doing, not just staying at home and being a church goer, expecting somebody who is kind of on the move and go, like,
Okay.
you meet my qualifications, somebody who's willing to be family oriented. Like, those are things I'm expecting.
Okay.
And those are things I would expect the same out of the other person. Like, I always heard this a long time ago in my 20s. Don't be having all these expectations for a man and you don't even live up to your own expectations.
Ooh, that's good. That's powerful.
And so, like, I've always checked and balanced that with, am I living up to my own expectations? And those are like basics. Like, I'm not looking for perfect, but somebody who's like under leadership, who can, who can submit, like, and that should be kind of looking both ways. Because those people are willing to grow.
That's good. Does anybody else, thank you, Duche. Does anybody else want to jump in on that as well and share your perspective?
I would say, like Duche was saying, definitely someone who loves the Lord, because how can you love somebody or even start a relationship or try to get to know someone if you don't know the Lord and, following that out? And definitely being consistent, showing up, letting what he say, like his actions is following, definitely being consistent.
Okay, good. Let's go back because there's several things that I think we could segue into from that particular question and your answers. But let's go back a little bit because it sounds like you don't even really have the opportunity necessarily, or maybe most single people don't have that opportunity to meet other single people. Why is that? What is that main issue of not seeing people? Are they in closed doors? Like Adrienne, like you said, do they not go to church, and then therefore then are they really Christians? Wink, wink. Or are we all just too busy? Is everyone just too busy?
We are living in a very busy time. People are busy. I don't know. Just speaking from like where I go to church, a lot of people are married and they're married young. And so at one time I texted Amanda, and this is over a year ago, and I texted Duche. So I was really curious. And I'm like, do you meet single people? Like, do you encounter single people? And my question was like, not just Christian single people even. And I wasn't talking about dating non-Christians. I just was trying to get an idea because most of the people I encounter are married. And I'm just like, are there like single people, period, around? Right. And why that is, I don't know. They're getting married younger. I don't know, because statistics say people are getting married later in life.
Right.
So I wish I had the answer to that question, but where I go, they're mostly married. Maybe I don't go enough places.
Duche, what were you going to say with that?
Well, I think the places that single people are around here are places I'm not willing to go. Like, they're out in the club setting, or we don't have the same moral values. So it's already like, oh, okay, look, well, let me take you back off the list. Like, you're not even a possibility. All I can offer you is friendship. So that reality is like finding, and like, I know other people, several friends who are single, they have church hop staying to their own church, but just trying to see if there are any single men in any other churches in the area. They have also come up short. So like, but during purity culture, I know like in the early 2000s and even in college, a lot of girls were running towards senior year trying to get married before we were out. It was like a mad dash. Please get married because there are no Christian men out here outside of these college walls. And I wasn't one of the people making the dash, so I guess that's why I'm still single. I was more focused on other things.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, but the dynamic has changed. Like Adrienne was saying, over the last decade, people are getting married a lot later in life. and they're seeking their careers. Honestly, it's expensive. I think financially that's an issue. And then the other thing is, are they ready to start a family? Do they feel that pressure to, okay, if we get married, then that means kids come next, and I don't want to have kids. So that's kind of a whole situation. But if that's the case, then I think we're looking at these statistics. We said 127 million. I believe it was a Barna research, or maybe even Pew Research, was talking about if we have those many singles, they're the most unchurched group in America are singles. So what should the church be doing about that in terms of reaching more singles? So if they say they're Christians, they're not home. I mean, they're not at church, they're at home. What can the church do? What should be done? Or should we just, wait and see and just let the whole idea of Christian, wholehearted, fire, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized Christians be stuck at home? Or does the church need to do something?
That's a good question, because it's like, and not just with it being like for the church, trying to help save. It's like in like any situation, like how can you help somebody if they don't want to be helped? If they do want to be helped, different story. But some people they're not there yet, basically, and they don't want it. So, but yeah, there is something that the church could do to, reach people different ways. But how can you reach people that don't want to be reached?
So should we assume that they don't want to be reached, or should we go out? I mean, I've got so many questions in my head, ladies. I'm trying to bounce them in the right direction and put them in the right lane. But I think that this is something that we need to talk about a little bit more. Does your church, the church that you attend, do an outreach towards singles? Which singles flock to your church for any reason at any time?
Well, I would say no, there's no outreach for singles per se, there's an emphasis on reaching the lost. There's an emphasis on we are the church and we should be pouring into people's lives, and we've started life groups and we should be inviting people to that and stuff like that. So not specifically to singles per se, but I know that there are churches that have different ministries that are designed to reach certain groups of people, youth and widows. And, I know that there are churches who do that. And, I come from a background of church where there were singles conferences, but of course, those were mostly for just single people. It wasn't really an outreach of sorts, but we should be reaching all people.
We should be, but are we? Amanda, what do you think? Do you think? Sorry, Adrienne, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Let's go.
Amanda, do you think that, like Adrienne said, we have an outreach to youth. We do outreaches. We send out the Easter Bunny for the kids. We do an Easter egg hunt. So we want to get kids, because if we can get the kids, we get the parents, we get the families, and that's how we bring everybody in. But we do stuff for youth. We even do some things for married couples. We have, I don't know if your church has done this, but I've been a part of several churches who have done a vows, like I'm in school. So yeah. They renew their vows. And we do several, marriage classes or marriage workshops and things like that. But is the church doing something that says that, you know what, I'm free. Why don't we go here? Come on, you take a couple of your friends and say, let's go here. Let's go to this church ABC, because they're doing something that's going to fit my demographic. What do you think about that?
I think singles ministry is awkward. I think it's awkward to build one, and I think it's even awkward to attend one. I guess I'm from the school of thought that relationships should happen naturally, and whenever and I've never really participated in a singles ministry, so let me preface that. But I guess I get this idea of all these singles coming into a fishbowl, and it's like, oh, okay, you're a possibility, and that's weird to me. That's just me. I like the natural flow of things. I mean, the idea of just you know, some single people getting together and knowing if they have a single friend, you know, hey, let's go have dinner. That's more comfortable than, you know, let's do a church event of single people. To me, that's just awkward. I can't really tell you why, but I just think that's awkward.
Is that what you meant though, Kiya? A singles event?
Not necessarily, but I'm just saying we do specific outreaches for those those cases. So if we're saying that there's no, you know, there's like several things that are happening, I think with this is that there are millions of single people, but we're not meeting single people. I mean, I guess I'm not looking for single people, but we're not looking, you know, we're not seeing the single people on the pew next to you, right? You're not seeing. And then Deshay said, well, even my friends go to other churches and say, there's got to be somebody around here. We're not seeing them. And there's a reason we're not seeing them. So if it's, first of all, if it's valid that they are few and far between in our churches, it's because they're not being reached in some shape or form. There's something missing that the church is supposed to respond to, you know. And if you don't feel like that's the church's responsibility, then I guess then my follow-up question would be, well, do you go personally look for them? You know, personally to meet people, you know, what should you do? If somebody was to ask, somebody called you up and said, okay, you know, Adrienne, Lakeisha, Deshay, Amanda, I need to meet somebody single. I need to meet someone who could be a possibility. You know, where do I go? What do I do? How would you answer that?
They asked me where they could meet somebody. I mean, if I had that answer.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I would say me too.
Take me with you.
Well, I want to make sure I'm understanding you though. Are we talking about, I get your point too, because if there are that many single people in the country, and
Right.
yet we're saying that we're not seeing them at church, and they ain't at your friend's church or the other friend's church, then the question is, are we reaching them? Not for the purpose of finding a date, but what are we missing? That's what I got from your question. Like,
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
I mean, when you go to reach out to youth, you say, hey, we're going to reach out to youth. We're going to do this program. We're going to invite them. You know, you're thinking about their souls and their salvation, you know? And so when I hear about singles and not necessarily a singles event, doing something that would attract that demographic,
Right.
I think is important, but I do not think it's a priority in the church. And I think that's why we see what we see. Amanda said it last week. She said it the year before, that people generally, the people who come in are married, they have families, etc. So you gear everything towards them. I believe that when you feel invisible, you just sort of fade away. But I will say something you said to me years ago when I was mad at the church, years and years ago, at the church I was in, a couple churches, you know, back there. And I'm like, singles aren't even here. They don't recognize singles do anything. And it goes to one thing I wrote in my book. One way to recognize your purpose is not just what do you love, but what do you hate? And if Adrienne, you were like, if you really hate that is missing, not for the sake of finding a mate, but just validating and you know, treasuring people and single people being among them. You were just like, maybe you're the one who should be reaching out. We wait for the pastors to do it all.
Right.
And I think that's kind of an interesting piece, because if we look at the demographics that we've talked about, if we look at the children, if we look at the young people, they are always, in most cases, they are normally attached to someone else who attends that church. Okay. So in most cases, if you have a youth, their parents are probably coming, or a friend is coming, or something along those lines. Too often, it's like those who are single are literally coming alone. And there's such an anxiety that comes with that, I think, for most. And I almost, in a sense, and this may seem harsh and this may seem direct, but sometimes I think that as single people, we kind of need to get over ourselves, and we need to be able to join a group.
I was about to say, I think a lot of people need to get back to like the community aspect of church. Like, I've been single for as long as I've been at the church I'm attending now. But I've always had fellowship. I've always had a group of friends, married and single. who've always sought me out. And I was invited, when I was first invited, it was by single people. So like, who were just like, hey, you want to go to church with me? And so if we're not reaching these people groups, it's because we as a church as a whole, capital C, are not reaching out to people and just inviting them anymore. And making people feel welcome and saying, hey, come sit with me, or hey, you can't sit alone, or hey, I missed you. I mean, that's a capital C's problem, not just, the whole church problem. Like, we need to be reaching back out to people. And because there's a lot of people dealing with church hurt and healing and other things that kind of goes along with that, and COVID, that's far beyond.
She froze.
And then I think the other is, once you go to a different church. Sorry, did I freeze?
Yeah, you're good now though.
Okay. I have friends who went to a different church, and a lot of guys were newly saved, and people were trying to marry them. And I was like, they're newly saved. Stop. Like, leave them alone. Like, they were just like newly saved. And so like, they become like a meat market, and you don't want to come anymore. So like, I think the reality is we need to be reaching out to people, loving on them, and making sure they feel included, and help them deal with their wounds. I think that's what we're having to shift back to, like things we've gotten wrong as a capital C, and bringing people back in and making sure we address their wounds without ignoring it. And then single people sometimes you just need to be okay with being where you're at in your season and stop being all bitter. Like, I was like, I don't know how else to say that, but like, I'm just gonna have to get over it. Like,
so Deshay, are
otherwise you're gonna be thirsty.
You're gonna be, yeah, that's true. Are you
Stop
saying
being thirsty? Yeah.
Deshay, are you saying that that's really the mindset of a lot of single people? If they've been single for some time, then they are angry and bitter?
Not all, but some are. Like, some like that part, and I get it. Like, I'm 36. A lot of people got married when they were in their 20s.
Right.
In the Christian world, especially the younger generation, they are getting married younger. Now, there's some of us who are just like, that wasn't our focus when we were younger in our 20s, or it's kind of there, but it wasn't. I think some people, we have so much about ministry and marriage right now. There's so many ministries about marriage. It's like, we've kind of made that a idol instead of the gospel. And I think maybe God's withholding some of that because marriage is an idol instead of Christ being first.
Wow.
And so, I mean, and I'm not, those ministries about being like, there's so many podcasts about why are you single and why are you sad, and usually it's when everybody flocks to church. And if you hug your neighbor in the night, maybe you might meet your wife. Like, I get those things, but like, sometimes I think marriage has become an idol versus the actual king that we're supposed to be there serving. And maybe if we got back to God, then seek first the kingdom of God, and maybe those other things will follow through.
Okay, then that's a great segue. Yeah, does anyone want to add to that? That's a great segue into, okay, what does the church need to do to address some things that singles need? Or, or even what should married Christians do to help in churches to help strengthen singles?
You got 5 hours?
Make a list.
Because, and let me say this, and I'm not one of those thirsty ones. I've been through that stage of being bitter and all that. That was eons ago, me and Jesus, if that's the way he intended for it to, all I want is God's will. And I literally mean that. But the church, like I said, ignores singles to a certain extent, and not just, about meeting someone, just in general. Like, I'm just going to be honest here. I remember saying I was so tempted around Christmas to say, I wouldn't have done it, but this was my thought because my brain goes. I was so tempted to say, and thank you for the one person who asked me if I had somewhere to go on Christmas, So that was, that was a thought. Like, I mean, and I had somewhere to go, and maybe people figured that I have somewhere to go, whatever. But I don't know, but how many other people feel the same way? Like, well, thanks for the one person who recognized that I'm all the way out here. My family's not here. Friends like family, praise God for that, right? But I think, again, there's a certain amount of being ignored. And so, like Deshay, not to challenge you, a lot of times what we say is get over being bitter. In many cases, the church is responsible to a certain extent. We're all responsible for ourselves, but the church has played a role in the bitterness, because as Deshae said, it has lifted marriage up as an idol. I believe in marriage. I believe it's beautiful. I believe God ordained it. But I believe when you stand all the time and the standard is always marriage, and you hear things which I heard years ago, like, you guys can believe what you want, but I'm believing that God's got to make my kids, and stuff like that. What does that say? That says that those of you who don't have a mate, you're somehow less than. I'm believing for the best for my kids, but if you want your kid to stay single, then that's on you. So those are mindsets. Amanda, you can challenge me if you want, but.
Well, so here's where my mind was, but doesn't that also follow the pattern that's given to us in scripture? I mean, all within the word, it's, the bride in Christ, there's this whole image of marriage, all throughout scripture, and this pattern of scripture with genealogy and all of those things. I'm wondering if what really needs to be fixed is the detailed explanation of what complementarian relationships look like. Does the church do a good job at explaining how we interact as brothers and sisters to kind of solidify that familial bond, even for those who are not married? So how do we keep, because we have to keep the familial component. And I know that you're not saying to get rid of that, but I feel like that even, again, that kind of, husband and wife pattern, I feel like that's laid out in scripture, significantly as well. And we don't necessarily get offended there.
Well, I do point out that Jesus didn't get married.
Right.
And I do point out that Paul said it was better, that it was better to remain. But since y'all weak, then y'all go ahead and marry. So, I mean, if we really want
well, I think I'm going to
hang yourselves.
I would also add to the point of like asking for help to as singles. Sometimes you want to be like, hey, I want to go to, sometimes you need to be bold enough, like, I want to go to lunch. Y'all never asked me to go to lunch.
Yeah,
I want to go, like, sometimes you need to be bold enough and say like what you need. Sometimes we need to say what we need. Right. Because my battery died in my car, and I called a friend, and they came and jumped my car, and then she was like, her husband was like, tell her like anything she needs. She just needs to ask instead of just trying to figure it out myself.
Right.
And like leaning into those friendships and that church bonding. I mean, it takes a minute to like add people. We forget because we get in our own ways on Sundays. You have your people that you go to lunch with, and we forget to look around, whether single or not, widowed or alone. We forget to check to see if anybody else wants to go to lunch, because I want to go take a nap. That's usually my thing. But like other people, like, you're going to lunch. Yes. Some people, we forget to look around and say, hey, do you want to go to lunch? Do you want to come join us? Do you want to hang out? And that transition helps people. And that has been asked to me when I was single, when my friends left and I was one people. I was hanging out with the older crew at church for a while. And they were just inviting me to lunch because they saw that I was kind of sad for a little bit. And they were like, hey, just come have lunch with us. And I did that for almost like a year until like I got it through my phase of life. That was them including me, checking in on me, making sure I was okay. So, I mean, also voicing what you need, I think also has to come into play too. Like, look, yeah, I never, like, Adrienne, I've invited you to Christmas several times. So,
yeah, and let me specify, I'm not dogging on anyone. It was just an observation. Yeah. And I'm not one of those people. Who's sitting around waiting for an invitation. I mean, usually, I got things to do. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that's something to be mindful of. And not everyone who's single is necessarily looking for that either. It was just an observation. Had I been, again, it would have been, thank you for the person who mentioned it. And Deshae, you said that and, stuff like that. But, everybody's in different places. I'm just saying that that's something to be mindful of. But not just for singles. We tend to be cliquish. People in general tend to be have their cliques.
So, Lakeisha, what do you think about that? Because I definitely want to weigh in on from the married point of view, and married in the church. But I want to hear what you say. What should the church be doing, or what expectation do you have for the church and even from the married people within your church towards being single?
I would just say to be included, because sometimes you do feel left out. But I've just been single for so long that I'm just confident with knowing that like I'm may not be asked, or like I'm okay with that, basically not being asked. Or so I think just to be included would be what I would have to say.
So not being asked what in particular? What do you mean?
Like to go out to eat, or like it, like how we're talking about, it's always a couples thing. Like I'm okay. Like I'm just in a place where I'm okay. I have had my bitter times, and sometimes I go back and forth, but like I don't know. I just been single for so long. I'm okay with if I don't be asked. Like I see all the couples getting together, preparing to go out to eat after church or something like that, or doing their thing.
Right.
Like,
okay. I think those are really good points, because like several people said, sometimes maybe Amanda said, look, and Deshay, if people are not aware, it's because they're not aware, they're just not aware. So intentionally, I don't know if that would be the case, in terms of just not recognizing those who are single, and how can I do to change that? Sometimes you just need to say something. But I would say, from the standpoint of, I've been married, this January it's been 30 years. So I got married when I was 23. My husband is younger than I am. And I wasn't looking for it, getting married eventually, but that, the Lord just crossed our paths, and that was the next step. And, I didn't think anything about it at that time. And of course, that was many years ago. But I think, in the church, and Adrienne and I've always had this conversation, just, how do you balance that idea of, everyone should be moving towards marriage, to, well, what's the role of single people? And in all the churches that we've had, that I've been in, we've had sort of a singles ministry, not necessarily to match people up, but to do life together. Because we need each other, whether you're single, married, or otherwise, divorced, widowed. And so I think when you look at statistics in the country, but primarily in the church, almost 50%, it's still extremely high. I think it's a little less than 50% now, in the church end up in divorce, marriages who end up in divorce that are in the church. And so when we look at those statistics, and you hear, pastors, my husband and I have pastored, and, you see these families struggling, we're trying to prevent them from ending in divorce. We want to keep the families together, because we know what that looks like. So I would say, offer just the perspective of, not discounting all the single ladies and all the single men in the church, but it often seems like people's marriages and their homes are on fire. And so because of that dynamic, that's kind of what comes up, because that is, so many ministries build off of families. So just to throw that, and I don't know if that is helpful at all, but I think there is a dynamic there that says we need to reach all people. And if you're not seeing single people in the church, then the church is not doing its job. So I don't know that I would say it's those who are single, or even the men, or if the men were to say, who knows, but if the men were to say, well, I can't find any godly women, somehow we've got to get it together and say, okay, there are people out there who are being ignored. Maybe they do have a heart for God, but you wouldn't know it. Or maybe, they don't feel like they're included, so they just don't include themselves. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts?
I can't argue with you. I mean, I can't argue with you with what you're saying. I just wanted to kind of touch on what you were saying about married people. Were you saying that there's a lot geared toward that because there's a lot of need there in terms of marriages that are struggling?
Yes.
And I think maybe that's just more obvious when that happens, when there are problems in a marriage, particularly in the church. But there's also the single person who, if you be real, if people were real and met people where they were, would find that some of them on fire too, in different ways.
That is true.
Present company not included.
Right.
Let me be clear. But I'm just saying.
No, absolutely. And then that's an issue. And how does the church
Yes,
deal with that?
I mean, there have been situations in the church, I know from not my church where I'm at now, but I know there were situations where I've had leadership who, you know, who said that they had to ask the hard questions. They've had to go into to the young, happen to be young men, but old men too, because statistics show that the pornography that's being accessed in hotels are from Christians when they had these Christian conferences and stuff, you know, and this stuff, whether married or single, some of this stuff is going on. But there are some heavier issues. Like I said, I've had leadership who said they flat out looked at somebody in their church and said, okay, so are you dealing with X, Y, and Z? Are you dealing with masturbation? Are you dealing with pornography? Are you dealing, but how many young men, even in youth group or whatever, are dealing with that and it doesn't get brought up? I don't know. I'm not in youth group.
Right,
But whatever it is, there's a lot of stuff on fire that some is just some might be less obvious than others. So I agree with you. It's the church's responsibility, and we are the church. So when I say that, I don't just mean it's the pastor's responsibility.
Right. That's
It
right.
is the responsibility to reach all people. But you ain't gonna go in, if I don't have a relationship with you, I'm sure I'm not gonna go in and start asking you anything personal.
I hope not.
You looking at a porn magazine? Welcome to the church. You got a porn problem? I'm like, you're not gonna do that. But
Of course not.
we build relationships with people.
That's right. Build relationships. Okay, so we can go really deeper here, but deeper into this aspect of it, but let's change gears slightly. I was thinking of the scripture that says, you know, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So my question to you guys are, ladies, is are you on the side of I'm going to find my husband, or no, he needs to find me?
Deshay and I were just having this conversation, I feel like this week. I don't know. I guess, you know, for me, it's one of those things to where, you know, yes, do I want to be pursued? Absolutely. But sometimes do I think men need a little nudge? I think so too. You know, so it's almost, I mean, I don't know. That's probably why they say women are confusing. Pursue me, but I'm going to nudge you along the way.
Right.
I don't know. It's 50-50.
I think sometimes we come off as unavailable too. You have that like, I ain't trying to be bothered look, or you know, and I've been guilty of that look. I don't need you, I'm in my zone. What do you need? I mean, especially when I was younger, it's like, what do you need? Like, what is that? Like, what, how can I help you? And so like that comes off like not the best.
Those are a lot of walls. Well, you know,
Deshay, do you remember? You just talked to me about this recently. Last year when I interviewed guys, the single guys, there was the guy named Gabe. And I showed him the video clip of Juanita Bynum talking about how the eagle chooses her mate, how she drops, you know, drops the eagle and he's got to catch it and all that. And Gabe said, I feel like there was a time when with women, it was, let me see if he can catch it. And now women are dropping the stick or whatever it is, right? The stick. The women are dropping the stick and then showing you that they can catch it.
Right.
You know, and I thought that was so deep. You know, like, are we too self-sufficient? Do we seem like that we're not interested, that we're unavailable? That's a good question.
Well, you know, that's where I was thinking when I asked my students who are, you know, 17, 18 years old, and they have that same complexity and they're young, you know, they're still kids in my book, but, you know, they're looking at relationships, but the guys were saying the same thing. Girls make it so hard. We don't know what they want. And so that's really where I was asking earlier is that, you know, do they want us to be chivalrous? Do they want us to be that man, be that gentleman, be that person? And some of the girls said, oh, absolutely, we want that. And the other girls were like, I could do it myself. you know. And so the guys were like, see, miss, see, we don't know what, you know. And so if we're looking at, you know,
That's 'cause they're
generations,
17.
because they're 17, because they
Open
don't,
my
but,
door.
but just like you said, I don't remember how old Gabe was, but I remember that episode. And it's the same principle. You know, we live in this world where our society has shifted in such a way that it's difficult. It can be confusing. And so how do you bridge that gap? You know,
We're
what
Christians,
do you
right?
feel you're responsible for?
But we're Christians, so I don't think we should take the way of the world, you know, and emasculate men and all that other stuff. I like a man I want him to treat me like a woman. I want him to respect my mind
Sure.
and to know that I bring something to the table, but I still want him to be the man. Amanda said before, she's like, I want to be led. You know, and it doesn't mean she doesn't bring any, obviously she's intelligent. We're all intelligent people. We have things to offer, you know, but I believe the man is the head. I believe the husband is the head. God created it to be so. And I'm okay with submitting to a man of God. And so, but I'm not a weakling and I'm not quote unquote thirsty, and I'm gonna be okay if I were by myself. But in a relationship, you do life differently than doing it by yourself.
And
I think that
here's go ahead, Deshay. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think that brings like some women, I know sometimes I've been told I'm intimidating because we are smart. We have these things, that, and the other. And that I can't help you with that. But the other part of like, doesn't mean I don't want to be led. It just means kind of what Anita said. And the maid's kind of waiting for you to get up to her level or see if you can catch her. Like, that's part of it too. But like, I've also met men who are married who tell me like they don't want a woman who's just waiting on them hand and foot to like do that. So like some men are confusing too. Some of them want the woman who is going to take care of them, and some of them wants Miss Independent. Like that's also confusing on the other end.
It's not easy. Relationships aren't easy because we are complex, you know, male or female, we're complex. So Lakeisha, what do you think? Do you want to be pursued, or do you have a problem with pursuing?
I would like to be pursued. And I don't know, just in my mind, I just think that's just how it should be. I can't really explain. I just think the guy should just go after the woman. Like if he likes her, like if you like her and you got something to say, then like let it be known. Like I don't know. I don't know. I really can't explain. I just think it's just so weird for the woman to pursue the man. It kind of makes it look like we're thirsty, although I know I'm not thirsty and that's not what it is. But I guess that would go back to like sometimes I guess we gotta nudge him a little bit, but I don't want to do that. Like if you like me, say something.
Okay. So then so Amanda, you're kind of in the middle. Like, you know, I don't have a problem pursuing, you know, but I do want to, you know, this man should be strong, obviously. And go ahead, what do you want to add to that?
Well, and when I say like I don't have a problem pursuing, it's more so I don't have a problem saying my heart is open and it's open to you. Take that for whatever you will. If you want to pursue me, then pursue me. Because I think that too often, because I know I'm an independent, you know, personality, that it's misunderstood that because I'm independent now, I always want to be independent. And that's not necessarily the case. I want to be covered. I want to do life with someone, but you gotta be, you've got to be worth that of me giving myself to you, if that makes sense. So when I say pursuit, I mean it's the, you know, the conversation of my heart is open to you.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this conversation a little bit, there are several different I think demographics of singleness, and the approach, I think, is very different. When I got married, I wasn't looking to get married at that point. That was not on my radar per se, though, Adrienne and I, we went to college together, we graduated together, we were roommates, we obviously had those conversations. What will it be like when we get married, et cetera, et cetera. But it was in the serving with one another into, having that bond where my husband and I got closer. So now, of course, we were 23, he was 20. So, when we were working in singles ministry together, and then, and youth ministry as well. But, in your 40s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, what does that look like? And is that the pathway to say, okay, how do I get to know you? Otherwise, Amanda, how would someone get to know that, you're not independent and you've got this wall? Why would they even want to break down the wall if there's no contact? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So what's that pathway look like?
I've often said that I feel like I date backwards, which I don't date a ton, but I feel like I do it backwards. It's like I become friends with you first, and then I decide that I want to date you. Like that's how it's always kind of happened for me. It's not, date to get to know you. It's I already know you, and I've decided, okay, yes, I'm falling for you, or my heart's open to you. But I think you hit the nail on the head whenever you talked about serving. And so I think too often that we just want to sit down and we want like this moment to like randomly combust, but we're not being engaging. And when I say engaging, I don't necessarily mean with the opposite sex. I mean just with life in general. We can't just sit back and wait for life to happen to us, but we have to seek out those moments to where you are serving, where you are, volunteering, where you're getting involved in some way so you can interact with others.
Yeah, that's powerful. Adrienne, you want to weigh in?
No, she's right. I mean, you have to, like you would say to me, you can't just stay in the house, and meet people, any kind of people. I mean,
Right.
you have to, and I think that's important. And I think you have to have that, there's that balance too of, what, I mean, I've had people say to me too, that I come across like, I don't need anybody. I come across like, I don't know what they expect. Cause it's like, if I don't shovel the snow, well, today I paid somebody, but if I don't shovel the snow, the snow is not going to be shoveled. And unfortunately, we're living in a generation now where the brother could just walk by and just let you continue to shovel the snow. So I have to have I got to do it. I needed some cereal on the top aisle the other day, and it was all the way up there. And the only way I could get it was to step on this step. And I'm reaching and reaching and reaching. Here comes this guy pushing his cart on the phone. And I'm like, surely he's going to help. He just kept it moving. And so I had headphones in, so I don't even know how loud I was, but I was just like, I remember the day when a guy would have helped, And so, because some of that, it's not about a relationship. It's just what have we done with these young men, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, if I saw a guy and I was really interested in him, would I ever be the one to, I don't know. I'm not generally one to put myself out like that, but I don't want to come across like, don't step to me either. And I hope people say I look friendly and stuff generally, but then I hear, but you're kind of intimidating. You look like you got it all together and stuff like that. So I don't know what else to be, because I got to be myself. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't meet enough people who are single to put this to the test.
Right.
Other than getting out more, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know if I confused it.
Let's get out more. Let's have this conversation again.
I was gonna say, but where are we getting out to? Like that's
right. Exactly.
Well, I mean, Amanda said it. Amanda said, we can be serving in, without the specificity. She said, we're doing life together. We're friends. How do you meet friends? Whether it's on your job or maybe there is some, community things going on where you're meeting people. I mean, we meet people every day. We went out, my husband and I went out to lunch this afternoon, and we met the, guy at the server, and he's like, man, come back, make sure you say hello. I mean, we're constantly meeting people. So where, I mean, or maybe meeting people and doing a particular activity, maybe feeding the homeless or, whatever the case is, but in serving, I think if you're looking for people who love God and have a heart to serve, then, how do you find those people, if they're not sitting next to you and they don't show up on your doorstep, you might have to get out is an option, obviously.
I was gonna say, like, I'm out. Like, I'm on several boards. Like, I am out in my community. I am very active at the university I work at. I'm very active at church. I mean, I travel. I go to Nashville. I'm visiting other churches. I've been to church in Atlanta. Like I said, I've been out.
Right. You're not seeing no single got men are in the church in any of those places, or you're just not meeting.
A lot of them are married, or I don't know, they're single. Like, it's just like, I'm
not
the one they're looking
I thought if you're single.
Kiya just January 1st, Kiya just celebrated 30 years. She's like, she don't get it, right? So that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying.
She's like, I'm and the same thing that Kiya had said to me one time. She's like, well, you need to get out and do more stuff. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing life group. I'm going to We the People. I'm going to church. Like there's these, obviously I do work at home, but there are these places I'm going, and I'm literally not seeing anyone. And I've tried to be more conscious of and I said this last time, okay, because I sit in the front of the church, and I don't come to church to hunt. So, so
I told her to sit in the back.
But
Just try it.
No, but people I know who's in the church. And hello, ladies.
Y'all don't get any new people.
People are getting saved and stuff, but I don't know. But I'm just, like I said,
you don't know. Wait, back up. Say that part again. People are getting saved. So people are coming in, people are getting saved, but finish that sentence.
No, but nothing. I'm just saying, if we're talking about potential relationships, people are getting saved or whatever, but they're not necessarily single. They're not necessarily, and like, if you're 21, like I said, you're not single. You just ain't supposed to be married yet. You're a kid, And so I'm literally not seeing a lot of single people. Now, do I just go pop up everywhere and stuff by myself? I do things by myself, because I've often said, if I didn't do any things by myself, I probably wouldn't do anything. But there are some places I would prefer to go with someone else. And sometimes I have had married people who are like, well, why don't you just go? And I'm like, but you ain't been nowhere by yourself since you've been married. but you expect me to go, and just go off and somewhere I don't know where I'm going. I'm by myself, so it's a complicated issue, really.
It is. I was gonna say, I have other friends. I have a friend, she's traveled around the world. She was in New Zealand. She was in London. She's out.
Yeah.
She's doing mission trips. Like she's doing.
I've done that. I've done it all.
Like she out. She's like, I'm out here.
That's great. So so what I'm hearing then is that, obviously you've got to be you, you can't be someone else, if you are sort of, maybe introverted, then you're going to be, I wouldn't call you introverted, Adrienne, but if you're in that mindset of, just your whole personality, your whole persona, and you're not going to be out on the hunt per se, then, God knows how to reach you. God knows how to get things that are supposed to be yours to you. And I understand that. Whereas, Deshay, you're saying that, you have friends who are out there. So they're, not everybody is going to experience the same types of relationships in the same way. Lakeisha, weigh in. You're quiet over here. Do you find yourself having the opportunity to say, hi, how you doing? Or to answer hi, or or even if someone says hi to you, do you answer back, or do you like, I don't know why this person is talking to me. I don't know you. I'm by myself. I forgot my pepper spray.
My gun, my Glock.
My Glock.
If someone approached me, it depends now, because like if I know no, then yes, I will have that type of demeanor about me, like, leave me alone, I'm not trying to talk to you. And it's only because I can tell, like, I know, like, it's something I'm not into. Like, say a guy that tried to talk to me when I was in Walmart and his pants are way down past his butt and he's reeking of all these different smells. Like, no,
Right.
you know. But like, I mean, if it's someone like tried to approach me and I can, like, you know, it was something that I was considering, then yes, I will, you know, say hi back or, you know, be more willing to talk, smile, you know.
Right. Yeah, be the wrong people.
Yeah,
The wrong people.
it's always, that's why I be like, oh, it's always them people like that. You be like, oh, like, Lord, why can't it be somebody like I'm willing and want to talk to? Like, it's,
Yeah.
but
I'm good for looking the other way if I know I'm not, you know, I can tell I'm not interested. But I was in Walmart yesterday because I can't seem to stay out there. And I did see a guy, and I tend to be, no, I won't say that. I did see a guy, and he was attractive, you know. And so I smiled, he smiled, we said hi, and you know, kept moving. Now, as far as I know, he could have been married. I didn't know if he was married or not, and I wasn't like smile, like here's my phone number, smile. But I smile and talk to people on the regular anyway when I pass, and I'm very friendly in that way with people. But he was one that I was like, oh, he's cute, you know, that kind of thing.
Hello, here's a church card. You want to bring your wife over to visit our church? We'd love to have you. Oh, but you're not married. That's great. Well, my name is Adrienne.
Oh, yeah.
You got to carry those stack of cards.
I do have cards in my purse, but not for that purpose. Yeah. But he was cute. And so, you know, but I smiled and, you know, I mean, but again, I do that anyway, you know? So, yeah.
All right, ladies. So let's wrap this up because I think we are out of time.
Yes.
But we talked about a lot of different things. And I'm just going to kind of give a summary and you weigh in with whatever takeaway we want the audience to walk away with is, first of all, we recognize that there are a lot of single people in our maybe peripheral, though we may not see them. Those who are, as far as research tells us, statistics tell us that they are practicing Christians. Are they in your church? Probably not. Why aren't they in your church? What can the church do to draw in this demographic from the outside, and then also nurture the singles that are on the inside of the church and be aware of what people are going through, or just maybe not even going through anything, but just, being in position just for the service of God and the community of the church. I mean, there's a lot that we talked about with that. And then the other thing is that being in a place of pursuit or pursuing is kind of up to your personality, because I didn't hear any hard no. I mean, I heard some, look, if you're going to step to me, you need to step to me. You need to pursue me. But, then there was someone that's a couple in the middle that said, well, I can give the nudge, I don't have any problems with that. But ultimately, I want to know that this man can lead and that he would understand that I'm willing to follow if he's leading in the right direction. And so I think we've kind of said quite a few things here. I think the last takeaway is that you probably would not go to a singles event. Is that everybody say that?
I would go to I would.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, it would be weird, but I would go to one.
What would a singles event look like?
It's not.
But that's what I mean. If it's a singles event, like we're all gonna hook up kind of singles event, I'm not sure I would do that.
Yeah. Although I have heard, wait, are we Christians? So wait a minute. What do you mean?
No, that's what but you didn't say. What kind of Christian event did you mean? I mean, what kind of event?
I'm asking you, look, is there an event that you would go to as a Christian single to say, okay, there are going to be other Christian singles here? What type of event would that be?
Okay, you didn't mention the Christian single events, but so that's why I was saying. I mean, but yeah, no, I would go. But again, it still remains the same. When I say hook up, I mean trying to hook you up, like you two are going to be together, kind of thing. I don't know. I want that kind of pressure. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I was going to say that. I remember when I first heard of that. I actually find that kind of fascinating for some reason. Don't know that I was don't know that I would do it. Not sure, but maybe for fun. Like, what the heck? What do I got to lose, right? So maybe I would. It's even if it's just I'm a conversationalist, right? I'm a communicator. I could have great conversation with anybody, really. So if that were the case, maybe I would do a speed dating. I don't know. I'm not opposed to it necessarily.
Wait. So would you, if your church was sponsoring a speed dating in the greater Missouri area, greater Jackson, wherever y'all are from, Cape Girardeau area, would y'all go?
I want to know where they're gonna find the people to participate.
Look, they're there. They're on the highways and the byways.
I would say I would, because I would say, and I would trust and hope that if the church was hosting it, that they did their, everything.
They vetted,
these
right?
are good men,
They did some
So
background
I would
checks.
feel comfortable and safe. So I would go.
I would go too.
It would be supervised.
It would be fun. I think it would be
That's why
fun.
I said I would go, because if the church is hosting it, then you feel more comfortable and safe.
Okay. I mean, that's good. It's a safety issues. For sure. Amanda, you look like you're deep in thought there. Tell me.
Amanda's always deep in thought.
You're right. I am. I think it would definitely have to be a casual, type of event. I'm kind of with Adrienne too. Like, the whole speed dating thing does kind of intrigue me, just because I also enjoy the conversation piece, and I enjoy I would probably go into a speed dating in a complete analyzing type of mind, which would not be good, because I would be analyzing like your first impression. I would be analyzing your grammar, the way that you said hello, all of those things. So it would basically be more for like a psychological experiment rather than to actually find someone. So it probably wouldn't do its purpose for me, I don't think. But if there was a, hey, we're having a game night, it's going to be singles only.
I love game nights.
That's different.
Yes.
And I've been thinking about having one, by the way, but I wasn't thinking about the guys.
Singles. You weren't thinking about the guys.
I wasn't thinking of it because
I'm so confused.
No, because I said right from the beginning, I'm not on the hunt, right? So right. When I think about having a singles, a game night, I love having game nights. I love doing stuff like that. Went to one recently and it was guys, and it wasn't just women. And they weren't single either. I was the only single person. No, there was a single guy there, but so I like to do that, but not necessarily just to be on the hunt, per se. But I don't got a problem with the game nights and stuff like that.
Well, then let me raise a real quick point here, is that sometimes I think and this goes without your, your status is from, being married or single, but I think sometimes we go through life and we are unaware. We are unaware of the way we think. And something that you just said, Adrienne, in terms of, I would host a game night, not that you would be on the hunt, but why wouldn't you think of, man, other singles, I want to make sure I invite other singles, because then, we can relate to one another. Yes, I would.
Guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I invited I had the Christmas party back in 2019. It was not just a game night, but but it was just for women. We were in our pajamas and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying
I guess I would. I'm saying I was thinking about having one, but I didn't consider single men because, once again, I don't know any. So
you met with one the other day.
You met one yesterday.
Well, I didn't meet him yesterday, but no, I'm saying the guy I saw at Walmart, I'm not inviting him to my house.
Well, of course not. No, but
the one that I went at the
you
park,
have to go back to that same aisle, and you never know.
I know. No, but there is one that I know, but I know of him and stuff like that, and he's when he was there, nice guy, but I wasn't,
Wouldn't check it for him.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, that it wasn't like that. So
I will say, the last time I got hit on, I didn't realize it until like a year afterwards. Like, I just I didn't realize what was happening.
Well, listen, ladies, if I can give even any advice in reference to those couple of points there, is that, because my husband still does this, that if I'm not approachable in a particular day, he'll stay far from me. He'll be like, let me wait. Let me see. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I can tell, you're tired, or, you might have had an interesting day. I'm going to hold my thought. And, he still does that, 30 years later, and just understanding my body language, or understanding my, just my attitude. Or if I breathe really loudly, that I don't catch it. But I think sometimes we're just not aware of, the people around us, the way we think, the way we even process, and having let's get together, let's go out, let's go to the movies, or let's do this, invite your friends, invite your neighbors, and things like that. I mean, I think that that's something it gives us understanding. So I guess to that point, I have to be, as a wife, I have to be aware that my husband is aware of me. And so I can't just expect him to, I want him to be sensitive to how I'm feeling, but I also have to be sensitive to his idea of, wait, if she's not approachable, I really don't have anything to say right now. And sometimes I can get irritated because I'm like, well, I don't understand the problem. He's like, well, you don't see what I see. So how much are we aware? I don't know. Food for thought.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely food for thought.
Well, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, you definitely given us a lot of food for thought.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I would be willing to fly out to wherever y'all live, to host a speed dating, because I think that would be hilarious. I would love to video it. I would love to see it. I will canvas those who would be interested. I would love to do that. And I bet you I can get a team of people who would love that. So anyway,
are you bringing the guys who are participating?
You know what? I don't know. I would have to be the summer, because that's when I'm off from school, because I'd have to, invest some time to find the single guys, to do that.
Exactly. So do you know a lot of single? I know we got to go, because I know they got to go. But here's the thing.
I know single people. I know single.
So but you haven't introduced me to any of them. But
because you don't come to Florida. Look, ladies, if y'all want to book a trip to Fort Lauderdale, I will set you up. Not for life, but for just let's see, for introduction purposes. I know single people.
That's nice.
I work with single people.
Well, then show them the episode.
Yes.
Right? Exactly.
I had actually, when Adrienne was looking at doing having the conversation with single men, I had several guys who were available, who wanted to do the show. They just were not available during that time. So, if you give me enough notice, I can give you some, I can give you some insight.
Well, I had a couple guys too, but they don't want to go to church. So, or they were skirting the issue. I wanted people who were,
that
they were regular, and people had different stories in the different situations, but they seem to have gotten offended by the very conversation about that. And I just said, for that, I just kind of wanted to hear the mindset of people who were in the church, because we were really digging into the church and that mindset. So
absolutely, I understand that. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, but I would have to say that there's not only the perspective that you guys have, but there's a pressure on men to figure out what their position is, especially if they've not grown up in the church and they are maybe new Christians. How would they know all these things if they've gone through, we bring our lifestyle, we bring our backgrounds, we bring our cultures into our relationships and into our relationship with Christ. So, I mean, and until we're, as we are renewed day by day, as our minds are being transformed, all those things, sometimes we have mixtures. And so, I think that's something to be aware of.
Well, I appreciate that, Mrs. Cordeau. And you did put a lot out there. And I do think it can be it can be deep. I used the term complicated, I think, before, but it is some of it is complicated, I guess, but ultimately, it's food for thought. So yeah. We're gonna let them go. Thank you, ladies, but I want you to hang out a little bit as we wrap up. And
thank you. It was wonderful meeting you and having this conversation with you. I look forward to doing it again. And if Adrienne hosts a game night, I expect all y'all to be there so we can have some fun, and I will fly out and we'll have a great time. We don't have to speed date though. We don't. We can just have a game night.
Yeah, because she'd have to bring the guys with her. All right. So, Kiya Cordeau, thank you so much for doing that with us. Before I let you go, I want to, you shared some of your takeaways, but just overall, how would you assess this conversation?
Well, I think overall, I mean, it was a good conversation, but I think overall there was a lot to think about. And anytime we are, we as in a person or people look at where we are compared to where we want to be, maybe even where we've been, we have to consider, okay, what am I bringing into my today? Do I want to bring that into my tomorrow? And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of preconceived expectations. And not to say that, you shouldn't have high expectations. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that, where a person sees the opportunity for, for marriage, if that's, because since that's our conversation, I think, is a heavy problem. I think that's something that all of your, the audience really has to, those listening, those who want to be married have to consider, okay, what's my mindset right now? Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I love doing? Because I promise you that when you're doing what you love to do, there are people that God will bring around you that enjoy those types of things and will mesh. God created Eve because Adam was lonely, and we're meant to do life together. So when people are doing life together, I think that, you find deeper relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's marriage, a marriage situation or not.
Well, I think that's so important, relationships. And that's one of the core values in our church. We're better together. But I can say, and that, I could say from the people I know, they're doing relationships with people. So it's not, they're doing, Amanda loves what she does. Yeah. I know that for sure. And the others are engaged in whatever they're doing. And obviously, I mean, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about my writing. I'm passionate about my podcasting. I'm passionate about what I believe God's called me to do. I'm engaged in some battles out here that I would rather not be, but because I'm passionate about young people and all that. So I'm doing those things, and so I would have, I don't know if you're saying that if you're not meeting someone, it's because you're not doing what you enjoy or you're not passionate about it. I would have to say I have a lot of exhibits that would disagree with it.
Well, what I'm saying though, in you're doing what you're doing, don't miss the opportunities that may be around you. I'm thinking that with all the people, I mean, and obviously we don't know this for sure. We don't have a camera to say, you've been to 5 different places today. You talked to, 10 different people, you served on this committee today and had this conversation with such and such, and you missed opportunities. We have no way of seeing that. But to say that if God was going to open a door, then the door is got to open, but we also have to walk through it.
Right. Yeah. But I think it would be a mistake to assume though that people are not walking through doors that are opening. And you know what I mean? I think that's part of the frustration that some people feel when it comes to being heard, because you're hearing what they're saying, but you're processing it through your own experience. So you might be hearing what we're saying, like, you know what? No, I've been there. She done been to Africa, Zambia. She's doing this. She's serving here.
Right.
And she's just not met single people. And I've asked people, do you meet single people? No, we don't. They're really not. Or they're, like Lakeisha said, they may not be people in her that she encounters. You just can tell they're not there. So I think that's part of some of what people who want to be married deal with, because they're like, I know where I go to church. So I know it's not like we're so crowded and got a balcony and all that. And I know the people, like we're doing stuff. So, so I think that's a part of it too. So at what point is it, you know what, I got to live my life, which is what I do. Cause again, if I get married, wonderful. If I don't, wonderful. I mean, whatever God has, right? So,
that's why I brought the point up with UK. So if that's the case, if that is truly the case, then, if single people are out there, why aren't they in the church? What is the church's responsibility to say, people need Jesus. And if this is such the largest one, it's almost 50%, close to 4 to 10 adults are single who claim to be 4 to 5 of them claim to be Christians. And if they're not in the church, where are they? So, what is the church? How is the church marketing, if you will, for lack of a better term, I guess, to single people? So, I mean, outside of just having relationships, but just meeting people, because clearly they're somewhere. And so I guess that's really the bigger point for me, is that, do we not do enough as the people of God to say, you know what, there are people who, if this group of single people have these issues, or these not issues, but these desires for ministry within the church as a single person, then there's got to be other, they're not, you're not an anomaly. There's got to be other people who want that same kind of thing. Can we bridge that gap? As we're doing a missions trip, for single folks, we're going to serve to do, X, Y, and Z, whatever that, whatever that looks like. We didn't get the chance to talk about it with this group tonight, but I think, as a whole, people are moving towards dating apps because social media is such a big part of life, whether you're in the church or not in the church. I mean, it's a part of everybody's life. And so, are people just not meeting face to face? Maybe they're meeting online first and then they're meeting, is that is that the avenue that we didn't discuss? But,
Well, I've discussed it. We've discussed it before, and there are some who, like Emily last time, said I've given it a try, but I've determined I'm not going to do that anymore. And then I've heard others who say, you know what, it's worked for other people. I mean, someone in my church, she did meet someone through an app, and last I heard, they were doing wonderfully. And so, that's great. Now, personally, I'm not really willing to do the app thing, and I've shared my story about some of that as well. But yeah, I think life is different, and people are used to everything's remote, and it's just a different world we're living in. But it is a fascinating conversation. Ultimately, we want God's will, and be careful sometimes what you ask for, you might get it, and so, God, for those who are struggling, we discussed some of that last week, some of that, the people who are just like, what the heck is going on, and but ultimately we have to pursue God. Like you quoted Amanda as saying, I'm running to the throne.
Yes.
Keep my eyes open as I'm running to the throne, but I'm running to the throne. And then if I see somebody who can keep up, then that may be a great opportunity.
That could be a match. Yeah, it could be opportunity.
Well,
I love what Amanda said too. She said, I'm typically will have friends, and then or meet friends, make friends, have this platonic relationship, and then make that decision. And I think, that's typically how you build a relationship. I mean, I think that makes the most sense. Honestly, that's really where it is, because that's how you learn about one another to determine whether or not there's something there.
I totally agree. I was thinking too, I was like, yeah, that kind of sounds like the way it's supposed to be, and that comes from doing life with people,
right?
And reaching, like when you talk about evangelism, we should be reaching people, period, because people need, people sing the song, people need the Lord. So anyway, Kiya, thank you so much. But you have your own podcast. I appreciate you coming on the Adrienne Ross Show. And there was a lot of moving parts to this conversation. So I appreciate you willing to take this on, especially since you have you're married, you have a family, you have children, and all that, and one child is married himself, etc. And you took this time for us, and I really like that, because I like digging into this topic. But you also have your own podcast. We want to end with you sharing a little bit about that. Where can people find you, follow you, support you?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for even having me on and just being a part of this conversation. From my standpoint, I learned a lot. And so it's always an awesome thing to be on the Adrienne Ross Show. So I appreciate that. But my podcast, which, and again, thank you for encouraging me to continue and to begin this podcast. It's called Bold and Beautiful. And you can find me on YouTube at Bold and Beautiful Life, and on all the major podcasts, Apple Podcast,
Spotify, right?
Spotify, absolutely, Amazon Music, some of the larger ones there. But all your major podcasts, you can find me on as Bold and Beautiful. And basically what this podcast is about is finding your identity. Who are you, and who are you in Christ? And I think so many people have an augmented view of who they are and who God purposed them to be. And because of that, they're living life in the shadow of who they're supposed to be. And so this podcast is really geared towards helping to expose those things, expose lies that say that, that you're nothing, that you have no purpose, that you're just existing in life. No, God created you for a purpose, to do some amazing things. And that may not look the same for everyone, in terms of what your purpose is. We're not all alike, but you are somebody to God, and you are
Amen.
somebody to the people that you are meant to live life with.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. Identity is such a key issue. So I wish you continued success with your podcast. And I encourage all of you to check out Bold and Beautiful. And it's Kiya Cordeau. And like she said, YouTube, all the podcast platforms, and make sure you subscribe and like, and do the same with the Adrienne Ross Show. Kiya, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, there was a whole lot in this episode of the Adrienne Ross Show. And I know we could have gone on and on because it's such a multifaceted topic. And so I thank you for joining us for this multifaceted topic. And I'm so grateful that Kiya took the time to moderate. It's kind of interesting for me to be on the other side, but I'm glad that we did it. And I hope that you got something out of it. I also hope that you will go to my Substack, adrienneross.substack.com, and subscribe there. That's the platform that houses the Adrienne Ross Show podcast. It's also where I do my writing. So you can subscribe there. There are some subscription options. One of them is a paid subscription for hardly anything at all. You could really support what I'm doing. And you can also get the full experience of my Substack rather than the limited experience that comes from the non-paid subscribers. But I appreciate your support however it comes. I also want you to go to Apple Podcasts, to go to Google Podcasts, to go to Spotify, to go to any of the podcast platforms you can, and leave a rating and a review. Need your support, need you to help me, as they say, bust the algorithm. You say you enjoy what I'm doing. You say you want to support me. So would you do that for me, please? Would you leave a rating, a 5-star rating if you believe it deserves that, but also write a review. Doesn't have to be long, but I'm asking you to do that. If you do it now, it'll be done. And I appreciate that very much. I also want you to go to the BMG Network, the bmgnetwork.com. Check out the other podcasters there and show your support to them as well. All right. So again, thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to leave you with this message from Guardians of Liberty. All right, I'll catch you next time. God bless you abundantly. Missourians, do you know what a caucus is? Well, it's time you found out. On January 23rd, Guardians of Liberty, formerly known as We the People, will be addressing that topic. What is a caucus? Come and find out. Guardians of Liberty proclaim liberty throughout all the land.